You know, when Trump visits, you have to find something to do with him. You can't just take him for a stroll around town. So instead, you take him for a stroll inside a palace where he gets uncomfortably close to the band, just kind of stands there staring until the prime minister leads him to the other side of the room. He's just bored. Now he's like, what the hell am I doing? I'm missing Sean Hannity for this. It reminded me of something. I was trying to think, what did that remind me of?
A show dog, you know he's going to despise this. Trump's state visit started to look a lot like the reenactment, albeit roles reversed, of that movie he once blackmailed his way into, which is so annoying, right? Because I love that movie and have to see him in it every year when I watch it over and over. But the guy looked completely lost, and this is coming a day after the press were just notified about a medical disclosure that raised eyebrows, to say the least.
Walter Reed mentioned advanced medical imaging. Did you get an MRI? Can you tell us what
I did. I got an MRI. It was perfect. Yep. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI, and in the machine, you know, the whole thing, yeah. And it was perfect. Yeah.
Did you say one in particular?
You could ask the doctors. In fact, we have doctors traveling with us, but I think they gave you a very conclusive. Nobody has ever given you reports like I gave you. And if I didn't think it was going to be good either.
And raises further questions about the man leading the free world. In Tokyo, Trump appeared to drift ahead and around Japan's prime minister during a ceremonial tour, leaving her trailing, prompting aides to physically guide him back into sync. And of course, the video went viral. The White House felt compelled to release a longer cut to downplay the optics, but in fact, it just made things worse. The footage raised questions about his alertness, coordination, and overall presence of mind, all of which Kimmel was on hand to quickly piece together perfectly for this segment.
You know, when Trump visits, you have to find something to do with him. You can't just take him for a stroll around town. So instead, you take him for a stroll inside a palace where he gets uncomfortably close to the band, just kind of stands there staring until the prime minister leads him to the other side of the room where, not much to see here. Kind of lumbers past the flags. He salutes the drapes. I don't know what he's saluting. Keep going, Mr. President. We need you to keep moving along. Now he's just bored. Now he's like, what the hell am I doing? I'm missing Sean Hannity for this. So who can I even talk to? He's like, over here. All right. I think I recognize some of those people. I think a couple of those people work for me. So I guess I'll go. It's like he's lost at the ball. And maybe I'll just climb up onto this little podium. Where the hell are the geisha girls I was promised? They're just walking him around the plate. It reminded me of something. I was trying to think, what did that remind me of? Yes. That's right. The Westminster Dog Show. It's a very similar event. He and that terrier have the same hairstylist for years.
And just a day earlier, right, the president disclosed that earlier this month, he underwent an MRI, calling the results perfect during what was described as a routine checkup. But the problem is MRIs are not routine, especially at his age. And the White House offered no explanation for why it was ordered in the first place.
Kristen, there's also something of an update from the president on his health. He revealed to reporters that he's recently got an MRI. What are we learning about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was this moment on Air Force One where we had asked a number of times, including the last press briefing from the press secretary, what kind of advanced imaging President Trump had gotten during his last trip to Walter Reed. Just a reminder, that had come out as part of the release. And the press secretary said she didn't know. Well, President Trump was directly asked on this plane if whether or not he got an MRI, and he said yes, he did. Now, according to him, he said that the results were perfect. Unsurprisingly, it's President Trump. He did not say what the scan was for or why he ended up getting it, and then he kind of proceeded to say over and over again, "You already got all these results." But to be very clear, we had not heard anything about this MRI in particular. We were asking about it, but we had heard about this idea of advanced imaging. Of course, this just raises more questions since he had already had his original checkup. This was not a full year later as to why exactly he went in for this MRI.
The scan actually coincides with prior disclosures of leg swelling and bruising on his hand. The MRI story didn't just invite further concern, it amplified it, which then prompted medical experts to weigh in on the situation.
Aren't they typically used to detect things like strokes and aneurysms and tumors? I mean, do you have any clues as to why the president would have gotten an MRI?
You're right, Sarah. It's not part of a routine screening examination. There's been really a lack of candor coming from the White House about this. When they announced that the president would visit Walter Reed at the beginning of this month, they initially said it was for his annual checkup. But when they were reminded that that's not due until April, they said, okay, it's for a routine semi-annual checkup. But just physical exams are done in the White House. The White House has a prodigious testing capacity. And the president and vice president go to Walter Reed for testing that is not available at the White House, something like a CT or, as we now hear, an MRI. The big question is, what prompted his MRI? So what symptoms were they concerned about? What particular type of MRI was performed? Was it a brain MRI? Was it a cardiac MRI? Was it an MRI of his spine, of his prostate? What prompted a concern that would take him in a relatively unscheduled way to Walter Reed for this testing? Why didn't they tell us that? Why didn't they disclose that he was tested when Dr. Barbarella issued his report after the president's visit? And now, why won't they tell us exactly what was tested?
Now, are there more important issues than Trump doing his best impression of me looking for pizza after a night out? Yeah, of course. Like the fact that healthcare prices are skyrocketing while Republicans do everything in their power, which, by the way, they have, as a reminder, they are in power to make life more difficult for Americans.
I mean, these are insane numbers. States are now starting to release the actual numbers on what the Republicans' policy changes have done to health insurance costs with this legislation that they've passed this year. This is what the Democrats have been making a stink about. You've heard, like, Democrats are concerned in the shutdown fight about healthcare costs and health insurance, and you think like, oh, Democrats are always concerned about health costs. That's nice. I care about health costs. I'm glad they're standing up for it. No, it's this specific thing. You want to know what the Democrats are making a stink about with the shutdown? You want to know what the Democratic side is of the fight over the shutdown? Look at these numbers from the New York Times tonight. Look at this. This is for the tens of millions of Americans who get their health insurance through the online marketplaces. Look. Based on the newly posted information, meaning the pricing information that's now being posted in multiple states, a family of four making $130,000 in Maine. So you combine the family's income, everybody's salaries, you got to do $130,000. That family would face an increase in their annual health insurance premiums next year of $16,100. That's how much their health insurance premiums would go up. But maybe that's, that sounds like it's a fairly well-off family. And you think, oh, well, maybe that doesn't apply to me. I'm not quite in that kind of a bracket. Well, imagine, you're in a couple, you're each 60 years old, and you put both of your salaries together combined, you make $85,000 a year. So maybe one of you's making 40 grand a year. Maybe one of you's making $45,000 a year. Combined, your couple's income is $85,000 a year. In Maryland, your insurance premium is going to go up by $13,700. In Minnesota, your insurance is going to go up by $15,500. In Nevada, it's going to go up by $18,100. In Kentucky, the increase for you guys as a couple will be that you are expected to pay an additional $23,700. That is the amount of increase we are looking at in people's health insurance premiums.
But nonetheless, the same administration that zoned in on every step Biden missed or word slurred, just brushing off the lack of transparency around the president's health while he's doing things like this needs to be called out, because we can't just accept it as normal. And good for Jimmy Kimmel for refusing to do so, despite the endless threats from the president regarding his livelihood.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.